What's going on, everyone? We've seen some rapid and drastic swings in everything this week from the stock market, interest rates, and the housing market. I think we're in the beginning stages of what could be a pretty devastating recession. And in this week's market update, I'm going to share with you the changes I see happening and what it means for you as a buyer and or seller in the near future. Those stories and more are coming up in today's weekly market update, so let's get started. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I'm Rick Harrison with MVP Realty in Southwest Florida, and on this channel, I bring you the latest market news so you can make better decisions when it comes to buying, selling, and investing in Southwest Florida real estate. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you don't miss out on the latest data, tips, and news keeping you ahead of the market trends. It probably won't come as any surprise to you if you're a regular subscriber, but we've seen some dramatic changes in the economy over the last week, and we'll be seeing many more coming in the preceding months. What am I talking about? Well, for starters, the stock market is showing signs of instability more and more every week. The Fed will be announcing their rate hike for May in the next few days. Consumer spending is through the roof. Prices are up everywhere. There's a food crisis, a war, and none of the so called experts can agree on what's going on. But before I get into all the doom and gloom today, I do bring good news from our local market. So let's start off with the data so you can make better decisions as we continue moving forward. So, in this week's 7-day market update, we're taking a look at week over week changes. New listings from 838 last week, we're up to 907 this week. That's up 8% this week, which is a pretty good increase. And it is a continuation of the trends we've seen over the last 6 weeks now. So, I'd say this trend does seem to be sticking around. Sold went from 977 to 1328 this week. So, that is a huge change. That's up 36%. But do keep in mind, solds is something, it's an indicator of what's happened 30 to 45 days ago because it takes 30 to 45 days to close. So these are homes that were under contract and now have finally actually closed. So this is an indicator of the past over a month ago, which, as I mentioned a month ago, we did see a rush of buyers going to, purchase homes and lock in their interest rates because they knew that the interest rates were going to be moving up, and that looks like that will be the case in the next couple of days. Pendings 1148 last week to 1259 this week. That is also up 9%. Like I said, we are still seeing the remains of people trying to put in their final offers before interest rates take a huge hike. The big story here again this week, as we've seen over the last 4 or 5 weeks now, price decreases have continued to climb. That trend has been going back all the way to January, February this year. But back then we were in the 180 range. Now we're up to 560. So this is the farthest hike we've seen in price decreases week over week. It's up 30% this week compared to last week. So that's something we will continue seeing and keeping an eye on. And I think that trend will continue as the market kind of contracts more in the next week or so. Single family homes. So we went from 2528 last week to 2620 this week. That's up 92. Again, right in line with the trend we're seeing. More listings are coming on the market now. Condos went from 1289 last week to 1336 this week. That's up 47 again. So we had a slightly slower gain this week, but still a gain overall. Net gain 188 last week, and this week we have 139. Multifamilies, no change here this week. Last week 108, this week 108. So there's really no change for the multifamilies. But still, the story here with the multifamilies is that for quite some time, over 16 to 18 months, we saw the multifamily inventory was hovering in the 60s and 70s. Now, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, now it's been over 100 and it's been staying somewhere around there. While homes go off the market, more homes come on to replenish them, and they are staying above the 100 mark. Foreclosures, again, not a huge change here. We really have not seen any wave of foreclosures coming. Last week was 36. This week it's 38. It's up 2, but we've been kind of hovering right around the mid 30s for the last several months now. Interest rates. So interest rates did move in both directions according to these two different sources. The first one is NerdWallet. It went from 5.25 last week to 5.183 this week. That's down slightly. Bank rate had their average grow from 5.28 up to 5.41%. That's up 13 basis points. I'm leaning more towards the bank rate average. The numbers from NerdWallet come from Zillow as the data source. I tend to lean more towards the bank centric averages, which bank rate is. And I think they're actually even higher now that we're talking about this. So let's move right into the stories for today. I have five stories on the agenda, and one of them is more so a personal story versus an actual story in the news, or at least the mainstream news. The first story we're going to talk about is the local builders. Local builders have been eliminating bidding, at least in this area, but I believe that the trend has started around the United States as well. If for those of you who didn't know or have not looked into new construction recently, new construction builders across the country had started the practice of bidding wars for buyers, and that was on everything from upgrade packages to the lots themselves. In some cases, you actually not only had to win the bidding war on the lot, but you also had to win the bidding war for the price package in order to actually buy the house. So you had to win in both cases, which means you were overpaying potentially in both areas in order for you to actually get be the next person in line to have your home built. The good news, it appears that they are putting that practice to rest. Demand for new homes appears to be slowing as well. I was in a couple new communities recently and talked to a bunch of the reps, and they said that they have seen a slowing in demand. Why wouldn't there be with mortgage rates rising? And as that continues to happen, I believe we're going to see builders start to catch up a bit on the building, and I just hope that we're not going to see something like the early 2005, 2006, where now that they are catching up, they're going to continue overbuilding. I hope that's not going to be the case, but you never know, and time will tell. Number two, the U.S. economy contracts for the first time since 2020. This is probably not a surprise to most of you, but the GDP did actually decrease. We went negative GDP, which the original projection was to be positive by about, I think it was 1.4%. We were actually on the opposite of that. We were negative 1.4%. So this article it was in a realtor site was a drop in quarterly output or even two in a row doesn't equate to a downturn. That's just simply completely false. On this next slide, you can see I literally pulled from the dictionary. A recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in two successive quarters, which we've already gotten through one already. So we're halfway through it. If we see another negative quarter, which I think we're going to, we will be in official recession. U.S. consumers and businesses, the core of the economy, remain healthy. I also disagree with this completely. If you've been watching my videos over the last couple of weeks, you've seen that credit card spending is through the roof right now. We just got those numbers. It went up $30 billion in just over a month. So that's a huge increase, which I think is an indicator of the actual health of consumers. So we'll have to see that. But they're saying that the current economic momentum in the economy remains too strong for things to suddenly sputter. So I don't think that's going to be the case, and I think they're behind the eight ball just as much as the Fed has been for months now. But continuing on with the story, consumer spending, which makes up 70% of the economic activity, grew 2.7%, following a 2.5% rise late last year. Well, I mean, it should. Inflation's at 8.5%, probably more than that when we get the numbers this month. So if spending's only up 2.5% or more, and inflation's up 8.5, we're actually negative. So consumer spending is decreasing. It's just we have to spend more to keep up with the original products and services that we've been purchasing right along. Households also have been bolstered by a robust job and wage growth. Again, wage growth went up, I think 5-6%, but inflation's 8%, so that was actually negative wage growth as well. Next story, a major recession is coming to Douchebank warns. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but it works either way. Now it's warning of a deeper downturn caused by the Federal Reserve's quest to knock down stubbornly high inflation. I just heard actually this afternoon that actually there's insiders saying that the Fed might be doing a more than 50 basis point rate hike in the coming next couple of days. So if that happens, I think we're going to see the stock market be caught off guard, and we might see a pretty big loss over the next couple of days. And if that happens, I really think it's only a matter of time before panic sets into the psychology, the mass psychology, which so far the psychology has been by the dip, which has been keeping the markets up. But if for some reason that psychology changes, I think it could be a race to the bottom pretty quick. We will get a major recession, Deutsche Bank economists wrote in a report to clients on Tuesday. Ominously, the title of that report was Why the Coming Recession Will Be Worse Than Expected. So that's something to keep an eye on and think about over the next probably couple weeks. We're probably going to have a pretty good indicator in the next few days as to where the economy is heading when the Fed does finally announce what their plan is and what they're doing. China's economy appears to be stalling as well, threatening to drag down global growth. Insiders in Beijing, and because of the zero tolerance and the lockdowns and COVID, obviously that's contributing to their slow growth. Insiders are looking at this and they're toying with the idea of calling it a recession, though they have more room. So the country has many ways to ensure it posts stronger growth in the U.S. and Europe this year, which includes the ability to unleash heavy government spending, something we really don't have the luxury of doing anymore. I think the Fed is pretty much in a tight spot no matter what they do. But in China's case, they do have some options. They're just not utilizing them at this point in time. But it is starting to feel more akin to a recession, something that China hasn't experienced in quite a long time. The Ukraine war. World Bank warns of human catastrophe food crisis. This was something that came out actually 2 weeks ago. I just didn't see this story. I have been telling people about the food shortage as something to really keep an eye on. I think I mean, even the president said it's going to be real. So obviously, they are already concerned about this. How real it will be for the United States is, up for debate. We do produce quite a bit of the world's food exports, but we also import a lot of the things we need to grow that food. So, record prices and food prices would push hundreds of millions of people into poverty and lower nutrition. World Bank calculates there could be a 37% jump in food prices. I think if you're going to the grocery store, you're probably seeing pretty close to that number already with inflation. We might be off by 10 percentage points or so right now, but I think that's up for debate as well. The surprising part of this story was that as many as 60% of the poorest countries right now are either in debt distress or at high risk of being in debt distress, which is really not good news. The dollar is getting stronger, which is making it harder for some of the more developing countries to pay for the goods and services that they need and that they're importing. Food is one of them, and this is going to make it even tougher on them. We're already starting to see that stress kind of come through in some of the mainstream media stories with the riots over the inflation in gas prices and food prices. So please keep in mind, do what you feel is necessary to prepare. You know, Potentially having some food saved up, some at least some canned goods or something. But that's just something I feel was important to keep in mind with everything that the world is going through right now. The wall of worry. We are adding one thing to this week, which should be announced in the next couple days. Fed May meeting and rate hikes. Again, the insiders are supposedly saying that they may be doing more than a 50 basis point hike, which could surprise and shock the market. That could also affect the economy. It looks like we're already heading towards a recession at some point in the next year or so, but who knows how soon that could actually push the start date up. Recession or stagflation. Job losses obviously is the major concern here. I'm not too worried about the underwriting of mortgage loans. The housing market, I think the biggest thing that we need to be worried about is job losses in the economy, which is when things like foreclosures start to happen and short sales. Also, we are seeing signs of some signs of a bubble potentially where arms are now doubling the amount of people who are getting arms because the interest rates are lower. But we also have a huge percentage of people had who had already taken out arms that are coming due to actual interest rate changes in the next year. So that's going to be interesting to see if the rates do go up. When those those mortgage rates start to increase um, on the people who have already been living there for 3, 5, 10 years, that's going to be a story to keep an eye on as well. Again, the global food crisis, bird flu, fire attacks at food plants, Ukraine NATO tensions escalating as well. With Poland and Finland potentially joining NATO, Russia is not going to like that, so we'll have to see how they react to that. And then obviously consumer credit and jobs added. Um, I just wanted to apologize to everybody for the late post. I did have this all done yesterday, and then when I went to post it, for some reason the audio stopped working on the videos. So again, I'm sorry for the late post. Also, I did want to just thank the people who have been leaving comments and letting me know what's going on in their markets around the United States, and what they're seeing in their own economy there. Their micro economies, because that is giving me things to piece together. So it's helping me create a better picture of what's actually going on and where things might be heading in the future. So I really do appreciate you leaving comments. And like I say every week, these are just my thoughts. This is what the pieces that I'm putting together. Please let me know what your thoughts are, where you think we're heading, what you think is going to actually happen in the near future. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button to let me know. And don't forget to register on my site to get access to loads of exclusive tools, data, and content like foreclosure and open house lists, buyer and seller guides, calculators, and access to our Southwest Florida MLS. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call or send me a text at 239-310-5478. And if you prefer email, you can send one to rick@swflrelocationteam.com. Thanks again for watching to the end, and I hope to see you next week.